내가 왜 계속 돈을 벌고 있고 돈에 집착하고 돈을 벌어도 더 많은 부를 위해 일을 하고 계속 경제적 자유를 찾아 고민하고 있는지 생각해 보셨나요? 우리 사회에서는 어쨌든 복지체제가 상대적으로 다른 나라보다 조금 불안정한 측면이 있어서 행복이나 혹은 여러 가지 가치, 삶의 질을 추구하는 유일무이한 척도가 결국은 돈인 것 같습니다. 이번에 소개해드릴 영상에서는 미국 펜실베니아 주립대의 수업 내용을 소개해드리려고 합니다. 샘 리처드 교수는 사회, 문화, 경제 등 다양한 측면에서 한국에 대한 호기심이 많은 분인데 이번에도 한국 학생 윤성의 이야기에 굉장히 흥미있어 합니다. 윤성 역시 수업 주제인 무엇이 삶을 의미있게 만드는가라는 질문에 한국 사람들이 답한 물질적 풍요에 대해 잘 설명해 줍니다. 한국이 삶의 가치가 물질적 풍요가 1위일 뿐만 아니라 물질적 풍요가 중요하다라고 말한 유일한 국가라는 사실, 영상으로 확인해 보세요.
Pew Research looked at 17 more advanced economies, and they asked people, what makes life meaningful? And just wanted to know, like, what is it? And they gave them all these different options here of really kind of focusing on what makes your life meaningful. So I want you all, the four of you, to look at this, and I want you all to answer that.
I would say health.
Health, okay, what else?
Education.
Health and education for you? Okay. What do you think Mexicans would say?
I think they would say family and spirituality or freedom or and religion.
Uh-huh. And Danielle, how about you?
Right now I would say friends and education.
Yeah, and what do you think Americans would say?
Like anyone.
What's
like,
the top choice for Americans?
I'd probably say like freedom and occupation, maybe. Society.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yun Song. How about you? What do you what is it for you?
I want to pick two, but I want to combine them.
Yeah?
One is material well-being and one is freedom.
Material
So I want to be,
well-being and
materially
freedom.
freedom.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what it means?
All right. And Chuzi, how about you?
For me, I value most friends and the health.
Friends and health? Okay. So, it's interesting that you say that. So I'm going to show you, so I saw this, and dude, first off, it's so fascinating that Yun Sung, that you answer material well-being as your top. We don't have China up here, and we don't have Mexico up here, but I know I can tell you what it's going to be for them. But look at how everybody says family, except Spain, which says health first, and families down here, which is so fascinating. South Korea, which is material well-being, which is exactly what you said. And Taiwan is society, and some of the society for Taiwan is largely because of just the relationship right now with mainland China. Yun Sung, how about what is it that led you? You said material well-being, like you were right on with this. Like what is that? What's that mean?
Before I begin, I admit I saw your research and I should have answered the material well-being in the first place, but in my personal thoughts, so Koreans who grew up in 1950s, which is our ancestors and my fathers, they went through Korean War in their early childhood, and some of them lost their family in the war. I mean, why most people pick material well-being in the first place is because they want to protect their family. I think it's the most thing they consider about it.
So what's interesting then is that, so what you're saying is, even though people are, so the number one, what's interesting about that with Korea is not only is it the number one, the only country that said material well-being came first. Interesting is that when you say material well-being, it means something very different than just the idea like, hey, I'm just out here for myself. Like I'm going to do like Choosy here, I'm going to have a startup and I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm going to buy a Ferrari or whatever.
That pick is not being a millionaire or being so rich like Elon Musk.
So the key is you don't really want to be super rich. You just want to be comfortable.
to just keep my family safe.
Keep the family safe. Okay. Which matters, right? Like here, which is interesting, right? Like in the U.S. So think about this. In the U.S., we're saying, and for both of you, right? It's like, okay, we're going to put family first, but I'd like to be super rich, and then I can do whatever I want, and then that kind of is maybe I'll help me or maybe help my family. And you're saying like, no, the primary thing would be if I'm going to make money, it's to help my family. So here are the like 4 different countries, and I want to point something out here about how this matters. So you said something about this, but let me point something out here really fast. So these are the GDPs of these 4 countries. And 1965 and 2019. And you think 1965 in China was $69 billion US. This is all in US, right? And in 2019, about $14.2 trillion. Like look at the growth. Cheesy is amazing. Korea, by contrast, this is 1965, right after the war. Korea was a poor country, a really poor country, and $3.1 billion was the GDP in 1965, which was less than, I don't know, it was less than like Algeria, less than Ghana. Right, less than so many other countries. And look at right now, it's 1.5 trillion, which isn't a lot compared to China or the United States, but it's so much compared to where it was in 1965. I mean, the growth it's unprecedented in some ways in history. The U.S., 744 billion up to 21 trillion, obviously the largest economy in the world. And then look at Mexico. So it's right behind Korea, but it started at 22 billion versus 3.1. So when you have this, so what I want to ask the two of you, so let me ask the two of you, when you see this and look at like China, look at the growth between China and Korea and so on, what do you imagine, just what story do you tell about their lives? Like, what kind of story do you have? Like
I don't know them.
Yeah. Okay. No. But think about this. They're coming from countries like this. What's the story you have about these people, or these people who like was a poor country, and suddenly now is just flooded with so much wealth, right?
For me, I think like technology and education, like they definitely. I mean, to go from like that to like being so much more wealthier, I'd say like when I think of China, I think of like high technology, like they produce a lot of things, like and like a good education. Like everyone I met from there seems like highly educated, so I'd say that definitely has something to do with it.
And part of that is the people you meet, who are certainly coming over here are more educated. But yeah, how about let me ask the two of you, like tell me what's the story, Young Sung, right? What's the Korea story, right? How does that play into material well-being? Like, what do people not understand about Korea, let's say? You said something about it earlier, but maybe just say more.
So, I believe students in this class haven't gone through any poverty in their childhood, or some of them may have, but most of us have like their fathers working capital, who is just medium or above medium, and whose salary is medium or above medium. And my family, my father as well, has grown himself into those level, and I'm the result.
So he was able to go from nothing to something, and then you're the result of that. And how many people, how much do you talk about that in Korea? How much do Koreans talk about that? All this new sudden wealth and, advancement and so on. How much is that? How much do you talk about the past and where Korea was and now where it is?
We don't usually talk about our wars, but when we visit our grandfather, they told us about how they grew up in their childhood, how they've been through their life, that
So-
kind of things.
Yeah. So are you told about it a lot?
Yes, and this kind of cultural thing that we embrace throughout our life.
So it's a cultural thing that you like really take that in. So seeing some kind of like in the U.S. So Danielle, like when I think about the U.S., it's like, well, when I was young, or go back a while, the U.S. has been the dominant economy in the world for a long time. So I don't even really think about it. But you know, Korea went from one of the poorest countries in the world to now the 12th largest economy in the world. It's like this is a major shift in the way Koreans see things. I mean, it's like, my God, it has such a transformative power to it. Chuzi, how about you? Like, how is that?
Actually, there is a joke. It's just a joke. I'd like to share. I just see this before the class. It says the first generation of Chinese, normal labor. The second generation Chinese, maybe the restaurant owner, the restaurant manager. As the second generation Chinese, maybe the business or the engineering. And the fourth generations, politicians or artists. You can see it's always growing. And ordinary people in the Western world, I know probably this is not so good, but this is exactly I read from the Reddit. The first generation.
Well, then it's true.
The first generation of Italian selling pizza, second selling pizza, third selling pizza, fourth selling pizza. Yeah, this is just a joke. It's just a joke.
Yeah. So the Americans will be selling McDonald's, but you know, in speaking Mandarin or Cantonese, maybe. So
Yes, and from the chart of this, you know, it's a micro from the country state, but from my personal perspective, there are a lot of people from the 0 to 1, from the 1 to the 100,000 million. You know, Chinese really love to start their business, even just a normal small restaurant, because.
But they don't want their kids to do it. Their kids want to do something else.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon here in the U.S., right? So maybe the two of you could say something about this, even in Mexico. It's not uncommon here. Here, let me just see if I can say this, right? Because I want you to really see this. I grew up in this country that was the number one economy in the world when I was a kid. All my life it was the number one economy, and and the assumption is it will be the world's largest economy until China overtakes us, which China will, right? I mean, it's on track to be doing that pretty soon. But to understand what it would be to grow up in a world like, you know, like these two guys right here, to grow up in a place where the economy wasn't the number one economy. It was actually really poor. And then, in a matter of just a few decades, just became this dominant global power. And you're living that. And it has such an impact on the way everything happens, the values and the mores and the way you think about life and the way all of your values, like what makes you happy and what should be. And it's disruptive. Because it has to be disruptive, because it can't be otherwise. That's the nature of it.
사람이라고 생각합니다.
가족인 것 같아요.
자유를 줄 때 나에게
부모님을 기쁘게 해드릴 때
아이들이랑 가족을 많이 생각하면서 또 저의 일을 그전에 했던 일을 계속 열심히 하고 싶은 그 두 가지 토끼를 잡는 게